Most people can name a friendship that felt wrong before they could explain why. Not a dramatic falling out, not a betrayal you could point to in a single moment. Just a slow, familiar drain, the kind that leaves you tired after a conversation you were looking forward to, or quietly relieved when plans fall through with someone you're supposed to love spending time with. We talk constantly about narcissists, toxic relationships, red flags in romantic partners. There are entire channels, entire libraries dedicated to those patterns. But the psychology of fake friendship, inumat, the specific mechanics of how it operates, why it's so hard to see clearly, and what it quietly does to you over time, almost never gets the same honest examination. It gets memes, it gets surface level advice, it does not get the full story. And here's what nobody tells you: fake friends don't destroy you loudly, they exhaust you quietly, and most people never figure out exactly why. Picture this: you're 7 or 8 years old. You're standing on a playground or sitting in a classroom and you're already learning. Not from lesson, just from the atmosphere, that being liked is how you stay safe, that the group means protection, that being left out of the group is its own kind of threat. This is one of the oldest and most reliable wiring jobs the human brain runs. It starts before you have language for it, and it runs very, very deep. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that individuals with anxious attachment styles were approximately 40% more likely to maintain friendships they privately identified as unsatisfying. Not because they couldn't see the problem, because the fear of being excluded outweighed the discomfort of staying in something that wasn't working. The fear of losing the group, any group, felt worse than the slow drain of staying. That is the root of it, not blindness, fear, and what that early social wiring builds, especially in people who grew up in homes where belonging felt conditional, where love came with requirements, where you learned to earn your place rather than simply occupy it, is a habit of keeping people rather than choosing them, staying close to proximity and calling it friendship, tolerating the company of people who leave you feeling empty because at least they are familiar, and familiar feels safer than the alternative. You learn to keep people, not choose them. Here's the first thing to understand about how fake friendship actually works. The first warning sign is not dramatic. It's almost boring in how consistent it is. They only show up when something benefits them, not in a calculating, deliberate way. Most fake friends aren't running a conscious strategy, and that's part of what makes them so hard to name. But look at the pattern across months, not moments. They're energized when you have something to offer, a connection they want, an event worth attending, a moment of status or visibility they can orbit. When none of that is present, so are they. The invitations slow down. The check-ins disappear until something useful is on the horizon again. The second warning sign lives right next to the first. They know your highlights, but not your hard parts. They've been at the celebrations, they've seen the good news, but try to share something that is actually difficult, something unresolved, something without a clean ending, something that requires them to sit with you in discomfort rather than just share in your good moments, and watch what happens. The conversation redirects back to them, to something lighter, to a change of subject that happens so smoothly you almost don't catch it. Psychologists sometimes call this pattern parasocial mirroring, the appearance of intimacy constructed entirely without genuine investment. But most people who have experienced it don't have a clinical term for it. They just say it feels like talking to someone who isn't really there, like speaking into a space that takes the words but gives nothing real back. And you leave the conversation feeling emptier than when you arrived. That emptiness is not a mood. It is information. It is your nervous system telling you something accurate. And here's the thing. Warning sign 3 is the one that tends to sting most sharply once you finally see it clearly. They celebrate your struggles more than your wins. When something goes wrong for you, a job falls through, a relationship ends, a plan collapses publicly, they become very present. Available, warm in a way that feels almost out of proportion to normal circumstances. But when something goes right, the congratulations lands flat, brief. Sometimes there's a small qualifier tucked inside it, a gentle redirect toward their own situation. A subtle reframe that takes your good news and makes it just a little bit smaller without doing anything you could directly point to. This is not cruelty for its own sake. It is a specific psychological mechanism called social comparison orientation, the tendency to measure your own worth constantly against the people around you. Someone who feels fundamentally stuck in their own life needs the people nearest them to remain in a certain position. Your struggle confirms something they need to believe about the world. Your success disturbs the arrangement. They don't operate this way consciously. That is what makes it so difficult to name. The fourth warning sign follows naturally from the third. Conversations always drift back to them. Not occasionally, not in moments when they're going through something real, consistently, across every topic, in every kind of exchange. You share something that matters to you, something genuine, and within a few sentences, the topic has quietly migrated back to their life, their feelings, their situation, their needs, and somehow you end up in the position of supporting them inside a conversation you started in order to process something of your own. A real friend holds space. A fake friend redirects. The clearest way to feel the difference is simply to pay attention to how you feel after an hour in their company. Not during, after, refueled or hollowed out, seen or performed at. That answer, when you are honest with yourself, is almost always accurate. But here's what's fascinating, and this is the part that trips people up the most. Fake friends are often the most immediately exciting people to be around. That is the paradox nobody tells you about when they hand you the warning signs list. Fake friends come with grand gestures, bold promises, plans that sound extraordinary in the moment, that are often magnetic, enthusiastic, larger than life in their expressions of affection and loyalty. And in those moments, they genuinely mean it. The warmth is not fabricated. They are simultaneously the most thrilling people to make plans with and the least reliable ones when the actual day arrives. This is warning sign 5. They are the first to offer help and the last to follow through. Not because they are consciously lying, but because their investment lives in the feeling of the connection, in the warmth of the offer, the closeness of the moment, rather than in the actual work of showing up. Once the moment has passed, so has the motivation. The gesture was real. The follow-through required something the gesture did not. Sustained, unglamorous, unwitnessed effort on your behalf. That part they consistently cannot provide. The strength in understanding this paradox is that it stops feeling personal. They didn't cancel because you don't matter. They canceled because follow-through demands exactly the kind of quiet, invisible investment they've never learned to give anyone. You were not the exception who didn't get what you deserved. You were just the next person in a long line. Now, here's where it gets more consequential. Warning sign 6. They are loyal to your face and loose with your name behind your back. This is the one that leaves the longest mark. Fake friends don't hold your information, they trade it. Not usually out of deliberate malice, but because personal information about others is social currency, and social currency is how they purchase belonging with whoever is in front of them right now. Your story, your private disclosure, the thing you shared in a moment of genuine trust. It becomes material they offer up in another conversation to seem closer to someone else, more informed, more connected, more interesting. They operate on alliances, not values. Whoever holds the social power in the current room receives their loyalty. This pattern, sometimes called triangulation, is almost always invisible from inside the friendship because they are genuinely warm when you are together. Present, attentive, the warmth is real. The loyalty is situational. And that gap between those two things is precisely what makes fake friendships so disorienting and so difficult to trust your own perception around. They almost never see themselves as disloyal. They experience what they do as ordinary social navigation, as staying connected to multiple people, staying relevant, staying in the loop. The distance between their self-perception and what they are actually doing to the people who trusted them is wide enough to get lost in. And that gap is exactly why confronting them rarely goes anywhere productive. And now the 7th sign. The one that takes the longest to name because from the inside it feels like a personal failing rather than a reliable piece of data. You always feel vaguely worse about yourself after spending time with them. Not devastated, not obviously hurt, not able to point to a single thing they said or did. Just slightly smaller than you were before. A little less certain of your own read on things. A low, persistent hum of self-doubt that follows you home from the coffee shop or the group chat or the catch-up you had genuinely looked forward to. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that individuals in consistently low-quality friendships reported significantly higher rates of self-doubt and social anxiety than people who were socially isolated but not in any active friendships at all. Read that again. The wrong friendship, the one that looks fine from the outside and leaves you emptied out from the inside, was measurably more damaging to self-perception than simply being alone. That foggy, deflated feeling after seeing them is not weakness. It is not you being oversensitive or difficult or unable to appreciate what you have. It is accurate perception. Your nervous system is reading the relationship correctly and giving you the signal it was designed to give. You are picking up on something real. The subtle, repeated message that your worth here is conditional, that you need to perform in a specific way to hold a connection, that you are valued for your function in their life rather than for who you actually are. The bittersweet truth is that the people most likely to doubt their own perception of fake friends are usually the most emotionally intelligent people in the room. Not because they are naive, because they are generous, because they keep extending good faith past the point that evidence warrants it, because they know what it is to be complicated and struggling, and that apply that understanding to people who are not extending it back. And now we are living inside a world that has made all of this significantly harder to see clearly. Social media has normalized curated proximity. Consistent presence in someone's digital life, the likes, the comments, the public warmth, the replies, creates a feeling of closeness that has essentially no relationship to actual intimacy. Follower counts have come to substitute for depth. The performance of connection has become so thoroughly embedded in how we relate to each other that a lot of people have genuinely lost the reference point for what real friendship actually feels like from the inside. What fake friendship costs isn't just your time, it's your capacity. The emotional bandwidth you spend maintaining a connection that consistently takes more than it gives is bandwidth you don't have available for the people who are genuinely real, the ones who would show up, the ones who hold your hard parts as carefully as your highlights, the ones for whom your success is simply good news with nothing complicated underneath it. The quiet tragedy is that most people carry a fake friendship, sometimes two, sometimes more, for years. Not out of blindness, not out of weakness, but because letting go of a familiar face, even a hollow one, feels like loss. And loss, even of something that was never fully real, still registers in the body as grief. That is not a flaw. That is just how attached we get to consistency, even when consistency is all there is. Think of a fake friend as a mirror that only shows you what keeps you close, not a window. A mirror. A window lets you see something beyond yourself. A mirror just gives you back an image. Fake friends offer the reflection of closeness, the warmth of being recognized, the comfort of familiarity, the feeling of being known without the substance that would make any of that real. You are not wrong to have felt warmth there. The warmth was genuine in the moment. You were just mistaking reflection for connection. And that is an easy mistake to make when you haven't been shown the difference clearly enough. The real loss isn't the fake friend. It's the real ones you didn't have enough left to fully meet. The people quietly offering something genuine while you were occupied, maintaining something that only looked like it. Recognizing a fake friend isn't cynicism. It isn't bitterness or paranoia or closing yourself off. It is clarity. And clarity, even when it comes later than you wished, is always worth arriving at. If something in this landed for you, if it named something you've been carrying around without quite having the words for, subscribe. There's more of this kind of honest, unhurried conversation coming. And if this video found someone today who needed it, send it to them. That's worth more than any algorithm.